After all of these years, the DCEU officially comes to an end. After 10 years of a DC cinematic shared universe, the franchise is gonna reboot next year with the first of the new DC universe being Creatures Commandos in 2024. But if we're talking movies, we're not going to get a DC movie till 2025 that's in a universe setting until Superman Legacy on July 11th of 2025. But what caused Superman Legacy to even exist in the history of the DCEU? Well, that is going to be a separate video that I'm going to work on. That is going to be the DCEU overview. And that should be the final video that covers the history of the DCEU, why they failed, and ultimately why James Gunn is going to end up rebooting the DC universe. But here today we are here to talk about the movies that consist of the DCEU. And there are actually 16 movies, with a total of 15 of them that went theatrically in theaters, and only one of them that was exclusive to HBO Max. I'm sorry, I just mean Max. So without further ado, let's get through these. But first, honorable mention. And the honorable mention is Peacemaker, the only television series in the DCEU. Now, the reason this is an honorable mention is that, they don't have this on Letterboxd, so Peacemaker would actually be number 2 on this list, which is crazy. So how did it go from number 2 to honorable mention? Well, yeah, like I said, it's also not on Letterboxd, and also it seems like season 2 of Peacemaker might do some weird thing where they bring his character over to the DCU. Whether that's them fully rebooting his character or something, I don't know. Or I don't know what they could do with Peacemaker to make it seem like he is in the DCU or he transferred. But yeah, that's it's weird. It's a little weird, but Peacemaker is the honorable mention. Now let's go through all 16 DCEU movies. And starting at number 16, Justice League. This movie is awful. It is genuinely the worst film Warner Brothers put out in 2017. And that is an insane thing to say, but the way they absolutely butchered Zack Snyder's vision for Justice League is crazy to me. I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder DC fan, as you will clearly see later on in this, but even I will have to admit that the way Warner Brothers handled the entire Justice League situation was awful. Put into account that this cut strips down all of Cyborg's character, Steppenwolf, to a one-dimensional villain, and that god-awful CGI mustache for Superman, you clearly have a Justice League movie that is just one of the worst comic book movie products that I've seen. And even including in the modern era, it's still one of the worst DCEU movies, if not the worst. But number 15 is giving it a good run for its money, and that is David Ayer's Suicide Squad, or really Warner Brothers' Suicide Squad, because David Ayer has said that Warner Brothers yet again took the movie away from him and decided to make something that that was completely not his vision. And it shows in this movie. This movie is a complete mess, from the way they introduce the villains to how Slipknot, the rope guy, kind of just is there and then he dies. And I also feel like they just don't really take advantage of the concept of Task Force X, which is something the James Gunn version definitely took advantage of. Which is why I think Suicide Squad definitely fits in a more R-rated movie setting to really get the full emphasis on the premise. But I wouldn't have minded a PG-13 version either if they were able to pull it off, and they just did not pull it off in this movie. It's just a jumble studio mess. You're gonna see a lot of these movies that are just a jumbled studios mess. A vision the studio, I guess, had for the movie that the director was like, that's not what you hired me here to do. So don't worry, there's a lot more of those types of movies. But number 14 is Birds of Prey. This was supposed to be the Gotham City Sirens movie, but Margot Robbie chose to do Birds of Prey. And let's talk about how they did a Birds of Prey movie without Batgirl. Now, there was a reason why, but let's not get into that whole Batgirl fiasco. But still, to do a Birds of Prey movie without Barbara Gordon is criminal. On top of that, the adaptation of Cassandra Cain is character assassination fully added. Like, this is the worst adaptation of a character I've seen in a comic book movie. Like, it's very, very bad. Black Canary's cool, though. Huntress was okay, and Renea, whatever the fuck, the old 80s cop type character, she was fine, I guess. Harley Quinn is, like, the most okay in this movie. Like, I mean, she's not the random fucking sex appeal character that she was in Suicide Squad, so that is an improvement. But she's just trying to be the DC version of Deadpool, which does not work for Harley Quinn, in my opinion. I think the Harley Quinn animated series has actually did an amazing job with her, and I also thought James Gunn did a great job with her, again, in the Suicide Squad. But yeah, I just did not really care for Birds of Prey or what was happening, and I thought the villains were meh. This movie's not really great. It does have its fans, and I do respect that. And you know what? The female cinema TikTok generation, not generation, just that though, you know who I'm talking about. Those I don't want to say girls. Yeah, those girls that love these types of movies, they would eat this up, which is perfectly fine. But number 13 is Wonder Woman 1984. Truly one of the worst superhero movies I have ever seen. Like, this is really, really bad. And this showed me something I already had a feeling. Gal Gadot was not a good actress. Like, she is really not a good actress at all. And in this movie, it's just amplified because this is the worst I've seen Wonder Woman in. Also, continuity-wise for the DCEU, this makes no sense because, Man of Steel is treated like, oh my god, that's the first time we've really had a superhero. Now, obviously, Wonder Woman existed in the past, but because it was the early, 1900s, nobody was really taking pictures like that of Wonder Woman, and that was over 100 years at that point, almost 100 years. So, people weren't being that picky, like, oh my god, you guys forgot Wonder Woman, because fucking nobody remembered that. But 1984 is pretty recent, and so for all of the crazy events that happened in this movie, and for people to just not have any record of any of this happening is wild to me. But at the end of the day, I kind of wish there was just no record of this movie. This is the most pointless sequel. As you're going to see with the DCEU, there are a lot of pointless sequels where you go in and you're like, you just undid the goodwill of the first movie. And speaking of that, at number 12 is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This movie does the same thing that Wonder Woman 1984 does. It's a very bad sequel. It's the first Aquaman, again, I wasn't crazy about the first Aquaman either, but this one made me appreciate that movie way more because it was able to at least balance the stupidity of Aquaman, like the energy they brought, from the first movie and not balance the seriousness. And again, Aquaman's a joke after the first movie. And Jason Momoa, and they were trying to make Aquaman not a joke. They were trying to make it, oh man, look at this cool, badass, mysterious character. Now he's a goofball. I can't, I just want to imagine people back in, I think 2015, 2016, when they first saw the first look of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Did they imagine that he would get pissed in his mouth in the sequel to his movie years later? Did they think Aquaman 2 would really be what it is? I don't think anybody was really expecting that. Number 11, Batman vs. Superman. I hate this movie. I do not like this movie. I don't hate it as much as I used to, but I still don't really like this movie. Mostly characterization comes down to me, and that's where a lot of the Snyder DC movies kind of fall. Is that I don't like a lot of the characterization for the characters. Yes, I understand the type of story they were trying to do for Batman, but Batman should not be mowing down people with machine guns on the Batmobile and literally just murdering people. The whole point of his character is that he's supposed to be strong-willed enough to not do something like that. Because if he does do something like that, what's the difference between somebody like him and the Joker or the Riddler? They would be all the same. That's what's interesting about Batman. Him not crossing that line, no matter how badly he would want to do it. They lost that with Batman. Superman is supposed to be the goddamn optimist. This guy's just moping around the whole movie. So I'm like, it's not really the characters, in my opinion. It's not really Batman. It's not really Superman. Also, their reason for fighting is kind of stupid also. And then also how it ends. Do we even have to talk about it? Martha, and then also shoving in Doomsday at the end, and then also setting up Justice League, and then Lex Luthor was a god-awful adaptation of the character. Again, I understand what Zack Snyder was trying to do. I just did not care for what Zack Snyder was trying to do with these characters. I'm just not a big fan of his take on a lot of these characters. I know he has his devoted fans, and they're probably going to kill me for putting BVS this low. But I really did not like the movie. Even the Ultimate Edition didn't really do much for me to change it. It made it more of a cohesive narrative, I guess. But, this movie's just... This really is what killed the DCEU, to be honest, but, I guess Justice League was, the nail in the coffin because the franchise was just never the same after Justice League. After that movie came out, there was no sense of direction with the DCEU. They were just doing whatever. And one of those products led us eventually into Black Adam, which is number 10 on this list. And so Black Adam is a very interesting movie because of more the behind the scenes of everything, the whole story with The Rock, him trying to take over DC. But what about the actual movie that was made? Well, it is the most generic superhero movie ever. If you were to ask AI, hey, why don't you make a Middle Eastern superhero movie that stars The Rock? That's literally Black Adam, I guess. The action was cool. Hawkman was badass. Dr. Fate was pretty badass. That's about it, really. But, the action was cool. I kind of fell asleep at the third act because that's how much I just didn't care. Or I was just tired. Or both. But, this is generic. I get why people might have dumb fun with this movie. And I get people that hate this movie. For me, it's just generic. It exists I guess you could say. Number 9, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Just replace everything that I just said about Black Adam, copy and paste it, and put it to Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Maybe remove the Hawkman and Dr. Fate part, because this movie does not have that. And instead, you get the Shazam movie, which is cool, but like they don't really get, it's not like they're doing a lot in this movie. Also, Billy is more of a kid this time around. Has Shazam. I would assume that like after at least a couple years, he would be a little bit more seasoned, act less kiddie, especially since he's 18. So why is he has like I would assume like he would at least kind of mature a little bit. But nah, he regressed. What was the point of this sequel? Why did we even make Shazam 2? Shazam 2 didn't even need to exist. But it was made. And again, we just talked about Black Adam and Shazam 2 and the fact that the missed opportunity of not having Shazam fight Black Adam after having 3 Shazam/Black Adam related movies in this universe, which is crazy. Again, we got 3 Shazam/Black Adam related movies in this universe. We didn't even get a sequel to Man of Steel, which just goes to show you the priority issues over at Warner Brothers and DC about which characters were the most important to the DCEU, or if they even cared about that at that point. Like, who knows? Who knows? They cared too late, though, because number 8 was The Flash. Because The Flash was supposed to fix everything. It was supposed to reset the DCEU. It was supposed to fix up everything over at Walter Hamada's reign. And then the reboot happened, and Ezra Miller decided to become a criminal. Now, I can separate the art from the actor, the people involved. That being said, though, I still did not like this movie. I thought The Flash was not enjoyable. Like, I didn't really like it at all. I don't hate it as much as I did, like, earlier this year, because overall, it's okay-ish. It's just, for me, it's a lot of personal issues with this movie. For one, I'm not the biggest fan of Ezra Miller's take on The Flash. As you know, I don't care for his take on Barry Allen that much. Oh, I meant Ezra Miller, their take on Barry Allen. However, to get 2 Barry Allens did not make that any better. I also have no nostalgia or care for Michael Keaton's Batman at all. So that for me was also just not a big draw for the movie. And then on top of that, you have an underdeveloped Supergirl that is rushed into the 3rd act and literally has a change of character immediately for no reason, which is obvious that there was a part in the movie that was cut about her, but was probably cut because of time. And then you have terrible, god-awful CGI and babies and microwaves and whatever. And you just kind of get this movie. I mean, the villains basically non-existent. You have younger Barry who becomes evil because he kind of knows about the future, or at least what would be the modern presence for modern Barry. You also had older, dark Flash Barry, which I didn't give a shit about either. And then you also had Zod, who was like half the character he was in Man of Steel, because like that's literally it. He's just playing a certain, like, there's no character with Zod. He just shows up. And they're like, I guess we gotta fight now. We gotta go fight the Kryptonians. But because people criticize Man of Steel for killing a lot of people, which was really a bad move, let's go fight in this empty desert. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Who cares? Fuck this movie, right? Number 7, Aquaman. This is what The Flash was trying to be and failed. I still don't like Aquaman that much, but at least I can appreciate Aquaman as a dumb, fun movie. Having explosions at every conversation was pretty funny. And then also, on top of that, the action was just insane. There was also horrors with the trench part. That was cool. Black Manta was way cooler in this movie than in The Lost Kingdom. I forgot to say that. I thought Black Manta was super goofy. Like, like, he was just so goofy in The Lost Kingdom. But here, he's alright. He's a solid villain. And Orb as Ocean Master, I mean, he's like the best character of this franchise, of this mini franchise, because, man, Ocean Master don't play as a villain, and he's a great hero. He's honestly better than Aquaman. I was like, you know what? I mean, I'm kind of with the Orb, with destroying the surface world, like, fuck us, bro. Fuck us surface dwellers, bro. We kind of suck. We keep polluting the water and all that stuff. Overall, I thought Aquaman, it's okay. You know, it's not the worst. I don't care for it, but I understand people that liked it, and I could understand why this kind of was a big movie back in 2018. It's also the only DCEU movie to cross $1 billion, and is the highest grossing DC movie, so that's kind of a weird fun fact. But anyways, number 6, Man of Steel. I used to hate this movie as much as Batman vs. Superman, but after a while, and after time passed, I don't hate this movie as much. I still don't like the characterization of Superman in this movie, but I can, get over it a little bit because, like, as I said, the movie, it's not horrible. It's all right. It's just like, again, the Superman characterization is what always gets me. I also don't really like Pa Kent. I also don't like how Pa Kent dies either. I thought that was dumb. I thought the final battle was cool until we started murdering random civilians. I mean, like, really? Like, goddamn. And also, Superman snap his Zod's neck. I mean, I get it, but I did not like that choice, personally. So, overall, Man of Steel as a superhero movie is not bad, but, like, as a Superman movie, it's not great, but it's not awful. So, it's okay. It's right in the middle of mid. It's right, I guess, in the pack. Not really. I don't know. Like, in the pack would be The Flash. That would be halfway. But I feel like this is kind of halfway-ish. Number 5. I'm going to say my hot take. I feel like I said a lot of hot takes. Not really. This will be the first hot take. The first Wonder Woman movie is so overrated. Even if it's in my top 5, I did not like almost any of these movies on this list so far. So, that's not really saying much, but Wonder Woman's better than most of them. And it's better than 1984, at least. The reason why is because Wonder Woman is the most basic superhero movie. It does have cool moments, like Wonder Woman fighting on No Man's Land, and then, like, a lot of the action and slow-mo with Wonder Woman was cool. This is the best acting Gal Gadot has done in her career, but she still can't act. She's not a good actress. I'm gonna die on that hill. Gal Gadot's not a good actress. Why did we give her so many roles, bro? I mean, I don't think she's gonna get any more roles now after all the shit she's been saying recently. But it's just it's okay. It's okay. I thought it was a little overrated, in my opinion. I think people overhyped it a little too much, but I can kind of get it. But yeah, the first Wonder Woman movie is overrated. It's just an okay movie. To me, it's okay. That it has good moments though, but it's just okay. Phew! Finally, we are finally getting to the movies that are like that I actually liked. So yeah, it's pretty bad that I only liked 4 movies out of 16. just goes to show you that maybe this universe should have probably ended. But anyways, number 4 is Blue Beetle. A fun time at the, fun time watching this movie. It's a nice superhero movie. It's just Ant-Man, but Mexican and better because of it. And also, I love the family in this movie. So that's great. The Blue Beetle power set is great for films. So it's actually a very interesting thing to watch. And Jaime Reyes is an enjoyable main protagonist. The villain, she sucks. She does. And Carapax, he was okay. I mean, he was kind of redeemed at the end, which was cool. But, I just wasn't particularly, it's not really reinventing the wheel. It's not the greatest superhero movie of all time. It's not even really the greatest DC movie, but it's good. And for the DCEU, that is like top tier content in this universe for it to just be, good. And that's surprising. I would assume a 10-year DC cinematic universe would have better stuff, but nope. But anyways, number 3 is Shazam. This movie is not bad. It's pretty good. Way better than the sequel, obviously, and way more enjoyable. It's a good Christmas movie too, so it's a nice superhero Christmas movie. I think the fun of Shazam is just how they play with the powers of Billy turning into an adult and stuff. And also, I thought Billy actually had an interesting story this time around instead of the sequel, where it could have been an interesting story, but meh. But here, it was more interesting, him trying to find his mom and stuff. The way the wizard came and everything. To me, it felt like a classic, like, Warner Brothers holiday movie. I don't know. In a way, it felt like one of those classic 80s holiday movies. And then you mix in the superhero elements and the big elements. And then also the horror. There's a lot of actual horror in this movie. Like, the whole boardroom scene was, like, crazy. I was like, wow, I can't believe they actually did that in this movie. That's actually kind of cool. Plus, the introduction to the Shazamily and then the cursing Santa Claus all makes this movie just way better and probably one of the best things the DCEU has done. Should they have done a Shazam movie this early on in the franchise? Very weird choices. Again, as I said, when I do the DCEU overview, we're going to go through more of the choices Warner Brothers made. But, hey, due to their poor choices, we actually got a pretty good movie with Shazam. Alright, number 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's right, the Snyder fans were begging for a Snyder cut. And after all of their years of begging and what people might consider may have been a little bit of harassment, we finally got the Snyder Cut. And it was glorious. It was 4 hours though, so it was a little taxing, but it was definitely worth it for the final product, which was a good Justice League movie. We finally live in a world where we have a lot of good Avengers movies, but we finally also got a good Justice League movie, and that's great. You can see what Joss Whedon really massacred here. Cyborg has real character in this. He has a full character arc, which is pretty cool, and it made Cyborg one of the better characters of the DCEU. Steppenwolf was actually a pretty badass villain. The way he came in, the presence and the gravitas that he had to him, Batman, was actually bearable in this movie. Probably because he wasn't murdering people this time around. I mean, he was killing parademons, but I guess we could kind of give him the pass. Aquaman, The Flash, like, everybody's characterization is good. Even Gal Gadot is not doing a horrible job this time around as Wonder Woman. I mean, she still can't act, But hey, she's not bringing the movie down or whatever. Ironically, the only Justice League member I did not care for in this movie was Superman. I don't know. Kind of, I told you, I don't like Snyder's take on Superman. So that's been the main through line. I did not really care for his character in this movie. And then also, just everything. Just everything. There's so much in 4 hours. And yet it all actually worked. And even though I did not like his earlier movies, I always was in the thought that Warner Brothers should have let Zack Snyder at least finish his vision of the DCEU before, they did anything. And this movie kind of shows that we could have had a very promising future for the DCEU if they went down this route instead. But no, they decided to cut this movie down to an abysmal 2-hour movie, and it basically put the nail in the coffin for the franchise. And the franchise was just moving with no purpose after Justice League. Like I said, Justice League is one of the most pivotal movies of this franchise, whether it's the Snyder Cut or Justice League. And it's just so funny that it's basically the same story with the same characters, but they're just both drastically different in quality. And of course, number one is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I love this movie. This movie is great. It's just like, I think, The Dirty Seven, I believe. I could be wrong. I may have mistitled it. I do remember the movie, but it's been a while. I think it's Dirty 12. Is it 12 or 7? I don't remember. But I do remember this movie being fantastic and great. The character work here with Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2 was fantastic. Harley Quinn, this is the best Harley Quinn we've gotten in the DCEU. Polka Dot Man was actually not cringe, and King Shark was a very likable character. Also, the mission that they went on was actually very interesting and actually felt like a real Suicide Squad mission. And we actually got to see characters die. There was actual risk. We were actually like, oh my god. Any of these characters could get their heads blown up at any moment. And that's the type of tension you need in a Suicide Squad movie. Plus the threat they were facing of Starro. Again, these are concepts and ideas that you're like, man, that can't work in live action. And James Gunn makes it work in live action. And man, this definitely, I believe, uses the R rating way better than Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey could have honestly just been a PG-13 movie. That's how much the R rating in Birds of Prey was pointless. But in this movie, it is upfront. It's just super gore. There's a lot of swearing. It basically takes advantage of the R rating. It does sometimes be maybe a little too much, but it overall works. And honestly, it is the best DCEU movie by a mile. But anyways, that is my complete 16 movie ranking of the DCEU. And yeah, like I said, Peacemaker would be number 2. It would be right behind this movie. So there. I already said that earlier in the video, but there we go. We came full circle with this. What do you think about all of these DCEU movies, and do you think the universe had any potential? I thought it had potential, but it was just completely wasted. Anyways, rest in peace to the DCEU, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.